But the name of my book is I Survived Suicide by Killing Myself. And it hit a #1 bestseller on Amazon.
I did know that.
It's meant to help people understand chasing the dollar, not chasing the relationship, will cost you the dollar and the relationship.
This episode is brought to you by 10X Nerds. If you're a business owner doing real revenue, there's a good chance you're overpaying in areas you haven't even looked at. Things like credit card processing, insurance, telecom, and more. 10X Nerds comes in, audits your expenses across 30 plus categories, and finds immediate savings. And here's the kicker. They only get paid if they save you money. It's a complete no-brainer. If you want to keep more of what you make, go check them out at 10xnerds.com. This episode is brought to you by Rakowski Law Firm. If you're a business owner or have built a level of wealth, but you don't have your estate plan dialed in, you're exposed. Rakowski Law Firm helps families and business owners protect their assets, avoid probate, and make sure everything transfers exactly how it should. This isn't just paperwork, it's a real strategy to protect your legacy. If you haven't looked at your plan in a while or don't have one, go to rakowskilawfirm.com. This episode is brought to you by Blue Collar Business Advisors. If you're running an HVAC, plumbing, electrical, or landscaping, or any other type of home service business and wondering where all the money is going despite growing your revenue, you need to talk to Paul Maskill. Paul has scaled and sold multiple blue-collar businesses and now helps business owners improve cash flow, profitability, and financial clarity through outsourced CFO services. His clients gain a better understanding of their numbers, build predictable profits, and create a business that supports the life they actually want. One of the things I appreciate most about Paul is he's not just a finance guy. He's been in the trenches as an owner. He understands the challenges of running blue-collar businesses because he's done it himself. If you're doing a few $1 million a year in revenue and want to stop guessing at your numbers and start building real wealth, head over to bluecollaradvisors.com. That's thebluecollaradvisors.com and schedule a discovery call with Paul and his team. Blue Collar Business Advisors, helping blue-collar business owners build financially healthy companies and achieve permanent profitability. This episode is brought to you by Corberry Digital. If you own an HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing, or home service business and you're tired of wondering where your next lead is coming from, you need to check out Corberry Digital. Corberry specializes exclusively in helping home service companies dominate their local markets through SEO, Google Ads, local service ads, websites, content marketing, and lead generation systems that actually produce a measurable ROI. Their team doesn't just focus on clicks and impressions. They help contractors lower customer acquisition costs, increase qualified leads, and build a marketing engine that scales. What I like about Corberry is they understand the blue-collar space. They aren't trying to be everything to everyone. Their entire focus is helping trades businesses win in their backyard and generate more profitable jobs. If you're looking to grow your business, improve your online visibility, and build a marketing system that works, visit Corberry.com and schedule a strategy session with their team. That's Corberry.com. Tell them you heard about them on the podcast. This episode is brought to you by my friend Silas Lagoy over at ForgeMark Wealth. If you're a high-income business owner or professional and feel like you're getting crushed by taxes, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not stuck. ForgeMark Wealth specializes in advanced legal tax strategies and wealth planning designed to help you keep more of what you make, grow it efficiently, and actually build long-term freedom, not just income. If you're making serious money but don't have a real strategy behind it yet, I highly recommend connecting with Silas and his team. What's up, everybody? This episode is sponsored by ExitWise. If you're a business owner thinking about selling your company, whether that's now or years down the road, you need to know what your business is actually worth and how to maximize that exit. That's exactly what ExitWise does. They help you prepare, position, and ultimately sell your business by assembling a world-class team of M&A experts around you, guiding you from valuation all the way through closing. If you want to know what your business is really worth and how to increase that number before you sell, go check out exitwise.com and get ahead of it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Builder's Bible and the Big Hitters podcast. I'm joined by Trapper Searles, who is a garage door guy by trade. Trapper, correct me if I'm wrong, now is coaching. He had an exit to PE, and he is a Broncos and Nuggets fan. So go Broncos, go Nuggets. I'm excited to pick his brain, man. Now, I believe you primarily operate as a coach now. Is that right, Trapper?
Yep. I consider myself a strategic advisor, which is a fancy word for mentor, consultant, coach, mainly in the trades, but I serve from a place of a servant leadership. So anybody who's looking for what I have to offer, which is unique in the space, I'm happy to do what I can.
Yeah. What are the main things that you normally work with your clients on? Is there any sort of like one or two transformations you hope to see?
Yeah. So you're one of the first. I've been sharing this a little bit. It's pretty brand new, but I'm actually going to be hosting an event called ROAR, ROR. It's fully trademarked now. Yes. Stands for Return on Relationships. And so that's what I do as a strategic advisor, as a coach. I go into businesses and I really focus on the return of the relationships that we have with one another in our business and in our lives, and then focus on how to understand that it's okay having a want for a return on a relationship, whether it's with your client, with your best friend, with your associate. And that's kind of the strategies that I work on within businesses.
I love that, man. Well, tell us, I'd love to just pick your brain on your, it's interesting. I have only recently started having garage door guys on the podcast recently. And of course we had Tommy on the show, which was, awesome. And I guess I just didn't realize how big of an industry it was. I didn't realize how much money you could make. Tell us about your story. Cause you started, did you start your business in Colorado? Did you buy it?
Yep. Yeah, so I'm originally from Casper, Wyoming, just 4 hours north of Denver. And I got into doors when I was 15 at Overhead Door of Casper, which was one of the largest franchises at the time in the country. And then I moved to Denver when I was 20. And I had this creative energy that I've always had to say, hey, you know what, I feel like I can do it better than the company I was working for. So I started a company in 2001 called The Garage Doctor. And the company grew pretty organically. When you answer your phone, you take care of people, you have integrity, you show up on time, business thrives. So we had a great reputation. We were the highest rated garage door company in Denver for 15 of those years. And then we did really well. We sold when we were small, super intentional, and garage door companies and tradesmen in general, they'd been undervalued for a long time. And you mentioned Tommy. I think he was kind of the first one to bring the trades to the frontier of value. So, a lot of us are very thankful. He's like I don't know if he wants to be compared to this, but he's like the Tiger Woods of the trades. He's what made the trades cool.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a couple things struck me about that podcast, but he is so focused. He invests a lot in himself. And then one of the things that struck me, Trapper, and I'm sure you can speak to this as well, but I've never had somebody before they hop off. Here I am, the lowly podcast guest or host rather. And he's like, Andrew, do you have anyone for me? And I was like, what do you mean? You're Tommy Mello. And he's like, do you have anybody who's an absolute genius in their space? I want to talk to him. I was like, damn, that's part of it right there, is he wants to be surrounded by the best of the best of the best. And so,
yeah, he does.
And I was really impressed by that, the fact that the billionaire was asking me for connections, if anybody I might know, that was
100%.
Kind of crazy. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Stay connected to that. And he's a very driven individual for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk more about some of the coaching stuff you're doing now. So ROR has now been trademarked. That's exciting. Who is your ideal client? Like, is it the blue collar service-based businesses? Are you venturing outside of that?
Yeah. So I've unintentionally ventured outside of the trades, but I do love supporting the trades and home service industries. I think once the trades became hyper popular as they are, and with AI, the tradesmen are not going anywhere, so it creates more value for the trades. Relationships within the trades are really hard. There's a lot of people that struggle with their relationships with their wives, with their kids, with balancing, the high level of incomes that they can make nowadays in the trades. So my ideal client would be fairly large companies, I suppose. I've been told recently by some of the companies that are having me visit them that there isn't anybody in the space that does what I do, which is really special. So maybe if you get back to Tommy, just be like, hey, Trapper is a genius with relationships and business.
There you go. Yeah.
So hopefully I can get a meeting with him in the next couple months. But so my ideal client would be businesses that want to create holistic success within their companies and their cultures. What I mean by that is a lot of companies, private equity being so relevant in our space today is very financially focused, which is fine. Being driven by EBITDA is important. However, it does create burnout for the people that are the revenue producers. So when you have high level drive individuals, sometimes it's hard for them to understand that not everybody is like that, and also not driven by financial gain. And so what I do is go in and I really help business owners and leaders, C-suites understand how to work the relationship side into the business. And then it actually works more from like the home space into the business, which is also unusual with what I do, is talk to people about, hey, like your home life, no matter who you are, should be the most important relationship you have. And then when you go to work, that relationship at work should supplement your relationship at home. It shouldn't be the other way around. And I did that wrong for a long time.
I was about to ask, normally this type of coaching comes from personal experience. So I'm curious to hear the story.
Yeah. So I actually wrote a book. I don't know if you knew that. So I'm a best-selling author. Book last year. It's a little bit of a trigger warning here about an attempt. But the name of my book is I Survived Suicide by Killing Myself. And it hit a #1 bestseller on Amazon.
I did know that. I've seen you promote it. Yeah, and it did. The title caught me for sure. Yeah, caught me.
So it's a special book. I don't promote it for sales. If anybody sees this and wants it, I'll get you a copy. It was an impact, right? It's meant to help people understand chasing the dollar, not chasing the relationship will cost you the dollar and the relationship. So, I've been married to my amazing wife going on 19 years this year, and we've been through quite the run. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, in any space go through challenges, but, our relationship was unique because I became, I would say that I can compare myself to Tommy as far as a creative ADHD. I don't have the drive he has by any means. He's a very special individual. But I became obsessed with my business. I didn't become intentional with it. And so when I was growing, I really focused on what the money bought for us, what opportunities it purchased for us. And I didn't really understand creating value within my relationships with the money. And so, money kind of took a dark turn, if you will, in my life. And so that led to an attempt in 2021. And that's when I decided, I didn't decide, I learned through some ideation counseling and some intentional therapy that I just learned who I wanted to be as a human being. And I invested pretty much everything in becoming who I am today. So I'm very confident in who I am and what I do. But I also joke that, there was a time where I wasn't who I was meant to be and I made money, and now I'm who I'm meant to be and I don't make any money. So it's kind of a funny thing, but.
Yeah. Put us on some game with ROR stuff. Like, someone like yourself, I'm assuming you have some interesting, like, I don't know if it's practices. I don't know if it's ways to invest deeply in relationships. Put us on some game there.
Yeah. So something that I learned during my competency training, I would say, I invested a lot into personal development. I believe that personal development is professional development. And I think it's just, being a whole person. And so I went through a training called IPEC. Some people might know what that means, but it's called the 7 Levels of Energy Leadership. And so I'm certified to teach that competency, which I really love. I compare it to this, and I'll dive into it just a little bit. I don't want to get crazy. And if it's super boring, just say, hey, Trapper, this is boring. I don't think it will be, but some people that have learned how to code, they see the world in numbers, right? Like the matrix, like the coders just see things in numbers and letters and whatnot. I've studied energy so much that I see people in levels of energy. So there's 7 levels of energy, and it's really powerful. So what I had to do to become super intentional, like a conscious intentionality, is learn these competencies. So they're super simple, and everybody lives in them every day. We travel through all of them mostly every day, in and out of them. But level 1 is victim energy. Level 2 is combative energy. Level 3 is a coping transition energy. Level 4 is a you win energy. Level 5 is a collaboration energy. Level 6 is synergy. And level 7 is pure energy, which is like I am. And so when I mastered that, I do think that I've mastered it. I've done a lot of hours investing in that ideology and those competencies. And so what happens is you can 100% control your energetic environment. And so it could be as simple as somebody in road rage on I-25 or I-70 in Denver, Colorado, and that knee-jerk victim mentality goes into or even combative level 2 is like, man, traffic's happening to me again. I'm going to be late because of these people, or somebody swerves in front of you and you get upset and it's combative and you just want to fight for a minute. When you master these competencies, you can recognize that energy right away and just pretty much tell yourself, how does this serve me? And so I used to live in a 1-2 energy, and most people live in a 3. Most people are like, I'm all right. Life is hard, but I'll figure it out. So now, because I understand this, and this is what I teach within businesses and in leadership, is if you can teach your people how to understand these energies, it's super powerful. So I can keep going, or if it's a little boring, I can...
Well, maybe walk us through an example of how you help someone tease that out, or maybe implemented that in the workplace.
Yeah. So what's super cool is I was just down at Mr. Sparky's in San Antonio.
Yeah. Shout out. Brian was on the show.
Yeah. I did a full leadership training with their entire company on the 7 levels of energy. So I implemented it within their technicians. And so an example of it would be the power that there's multiple powers of it. So the power, first and foremost, is controlling your energy. So if you're a service person or a technician or a high performer and you're having a challenge in a relationship at home or whatnot, you can recognize that and you can really work yourself through getting into the space that you need to be in. And most technicians in the workplace in the blue collar space, we, like technicians, need to be in one of 2 energies, 4 or 5. 4 is a you win. So if we show up to a client's home and we're working on their garage door, their HVAC, or their electrical, we want them to feel that we are there for them to win. It's not about us. Now, the way that we teach this is when a technician understands the competencies, the power is not only can they control what they need to do and where they need to be, and it's authentic. It's not it's not a fake thing because they're really controlling their environment. When they knock on a door, and say in the garage doors industry, most people are in a level 1 and then they go to a level 2 because something happened to them. My garage door spring broke. I was just taking the kids to school and now I have to deal with this. The world hates me. The client is in a level 1 energy. So what the technician can do on site is understand that level 1 energy, and then they can communicate through how we train, or leadership can train them to do this, is we can guide them out of it without them knowing. So we can teach people how to communicate to the client and get them to a level 3 energy, because it's not a step-by-step energy. You don't go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and so on. We want to take people and ourselves from a 1 to a 4 or a 1 to a 5. It just depends on where we need to be as a business or as a technician. And so that client that's a 1 because life's happening to them, technicians that understand these values can help shift that client to a 5, which means collaboration. And now they're bought into the collaboration energy. And now you can be really successful. And so I actually got to see that in real time with a technician named Kevin. Shout out to him if he sees this down at Mr. Sparky's. We went to a client's house. I went on a ride along with him. And he really engaged the concept, and it was honestly, it was like magical to watch. It was really special.
Well, I'm sure that will lead to obviously better reviews, better team relationships. Like if you master the concepts of the different types of energy, that could be really powerful in forming teams and getting you better Google reviews, which I think everybody wants. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm curious to hear. You have a lot going on, but I would like to pick your brain on the selling to private equity thing, man. What was that like for you? I mean, I think most guys dream of that, and I've heard it can be amazing or it can be terrible. There seems to be no in between, So, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, a little backstory. I I was kind of an anomaly of getting out because I'm a younger entrepreneur. I sold when I was 39. So I had my company for just on 20 years about. I guess I was 40. And what caused me wanting to sell was my wife ended up having a ruptured brain aneurysm in 22. And so she was in the hospital for 180 days. And so I actually didn't know until that time that my team was way more epic than I even knew, but they like took control of the business. And that's where I really learned that they just didn't need me that much, which was super cool. And it helped us get through that time in our life. And around when my wife came home, well, she was still at Craig Rehab Hospital there in Denver. And Don from Don's Garage Door called me and he said, "Hey, I just want to let you know I sold to Tommy and A1." And I was like, "Awesome, congratulations," because I knew that was something he wanted to do for a long time. I won't dive too much into that, but I was like, you know what? I wonder if my company is valuable. So I reached out to Tommy. I was fortunate to know him a little bit before doing that, and I reached out and just said, "Hey, like this is where I'm at in life. What would you suggest I do?" And so I got invited to a vertical track event of his, and I met him down there, and then I met some people from Guild Garage, which is another big private equity group that is like the other garage door investment in the industry. And so the conversation started between the two of them, separately and me. And they both did business evaluations. That's when I really learned about EBITDA. I honestly didn't know what it meant before that. I wasn't like a professional businessman. I was really great with garage doors and people. And I think that's a lot of people in the trades. And so once I learned EBITDA, I really started becoming intentional of how I wanted to sell. So I became pretty efficient with our systems. And so we already ran Service Titan when we decided to sell. And so the integration was, I feel super easy. I hope that A1 would say the same thing, or Tony Miller's group. I felt like it was a great experience. I was ready to exit. I believed I had a bigger meaning to happen in my life. And Tommy says this, I don't know if he said this on your podcast with him or not, but he says this often. And he said, I remember this kind of implanted in my brain. He says, "I have to dream big enough for all of my employees' dreams to fit in my dream." And if that's not verbatim, it's very close. And I remember just thinking I have big dreams. And so I closed on December 18th. It wasn't a very long process, maybe 6 months. And our books were super clean. I think your experience when selling depends on how clean you've been operating your business. I was fortunate. I didn't like do that intentionally. We just had really good books, and we had really good people, and we had great systems. And some of that was accidental. I mean, it's not like I read a guide to build a good business. I happened to kind of.
Yeah.
And so I was ready, and then we closed. I actually went to work for Dawn's is A1 in Denver, and I went to work for them. I made it 6 days, and I called Tommy, and I said, "Hey man," I said, "I don't think your dream's big enough to fit my dream." And so I gave him my notice and put my house on the market, and we made the move. So
yeah.
I can share any parts of. I'm happy to share any.
No, man. Honestly, I think at some point I'd like to have you back on. I think there's a whole lot more that we could probably talk about. What's one thing we haven't talked about so far that gets you fired up? I know you get excited about a lot of things. You're helping people build better teams. You're helping people have more efficient businesses. What's one thing that you've been kind of fired up about lately?
Yeah. So I'm super passionate about the trades. I like it afforded me my entire life. And I came from, not nothing, but I mean, we came from pretty close to nothing in Casper, Wyoming, a big family, a lot of dysfunction. And so I get fired up by creating impact. I've recently been speaking, which is super cool. About 7 weeks, I've traveled to 5 different places and I've done speaking on stage in front of people. And what I'm hearing as feedback that pumps me up is people in the trades, they're not hearing people talk about relationships. And relationships are so important to me. I know I've already talked about it, but the relationship I have with my wife is so important. And a big part of it is because we've been through so much. We've been through losing our dads before they turned 60, and then infertility, like we couldn't have kids and we adopted. And then we had some infidelity challenges in our marriage, and we had a suicide attempt and my wife's brain injury. And relationships are just so important to me because at the end of the day, man, like you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, my wife was perfectly healthy. Literally 1 minute, we were downtown Denver on a date night with 3 friends. A minute later, she was dying. And so I am really passionate about relationships because you can just find so much value in them. And our relationships are so undervalued, I believe. Yeah. And I'm hearing that that's the case. So I love it.
Yeah, that's great, man. I'm a part of this thing called Rise Up Kings, and they are a Christian business owner organization. Their initial thing is like a 4-day crawl through mud, fight each other type of rah-rah thing. But dude, it's become like this. It's like a Christian business owners fraternity. And one of the things that strikes me about that is there's tons of guys in there, and some of them are hundreds and hundreds of millions of revenue. And like a lot of them just would give anything to go back and rekindle their relationship with their daughter, or like save their first marriage, or like go back and reconcile with the guy that, he left your business and he like hung his own shingle, And so I can't say that enough. Like, what good is it to have profit without peace? If you don't have relational peace, if you don't have relational synergy, like if I go home at night and my wife and I are like actively butting heads about something, it's not worth it, bro. Not worth it.
Man, I'll share this. I have a friend in Denver, a very successful realtor, and she's amazing. She's been our friend before she was our realtor, but we've known each other for 20 years. And she's been very active, like we were just friends. And so she would hear me when all the challenges were happening in my business, and then all my challenges were happening in my life, and going through like infidelity and all of these crazy things. And when I was angry, and when I first moved to Scottsdale, I was sitting in my backyard and I was on the phone with her. We were just catching up, and she was like, "Trap," she goes, "I just want to tell you, like, you sound happy for the first time in like 20 years. And I said, "Man, was I really that guy?" And she goes, "Yeah." She's like, "The garage doctor it weighed on you, and people in your life felt it." And I knew that at that point because I'd gone through some like counseling to deal with it. But it was self-inflicted. It's not like anybody else made me do it. And so when I came to that realization, it's kind of funny because there was a time not that long ago where I made a bunch of money, and I had 2 Ferraris and an Aston Martin in my garage, and a huge camper and a pool and a big yard and a big house. And I look out my window in my office every day now to like my 4,000 square foot backyard and palm trees. And we're in a 2,200 square foot ranch house in a normal neighborhood in Scottsdale. And life is so simple, and it's not very expensive. I am truly blessed, and I just feel like I'm living the dream I was meant to live. And all of our dreams are meant for us, however that is. And I'm here to support it, whatever. I have clients that want to make billions of dollars, and I'm here for it. Like I'm happy to support them how I can. But I share that because in the social space that we're part of nowadays, I think that a lot of the conversations out there is the feeling for the people is I'm not a successful entrepreneur if I'm not worth 7, 8, 9 figures. And the reframe is you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, man. Well, Trapper, dude, we might have to schedule another one, man, because I feel like we just scratched the surface. If people wanted to learn more about your business, who you are, what you do, where can they go?
Instagram, I've been growing my community on there. That's super cool. I didn't know I'd ever be that popular on Instagram, which is cool. So it's just Trapper Searles. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn is cool, and then I have a website being built because this is a fairly new business, 18 months, and I haven't even had a site yet. But the biggest thing, if anyone takes away, is look out for Roar. This is going to be something like you guys never seen before. It's going to be super dope. ROR, ROR.
Well, I just added you on there, dude. You got 35,000 followers, so your audience is growing. That's great, man. That's awesome.
Let's go.
Nice, man. I might ride on your coattails and we can do a collab or something.
Let's do it. I'll start tagging you. I'll start tagging you on everything.
I love it, man. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Don't go anywhere because I want to keep talking, but thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.